Damilola Odujoko of Paystack.
Thank you very much. Can we appreciate the organizers and the speakers so far? I think they've done a really fantastic job, and the energy here is really contagious. Let's give them a round of applause once again. Okay, so my name is Damilola, and I'm a technical product specialist at Paystack. And yeah, today I'm going to be speaking about building with OpenAPI specification. How many of us have heard about OpenAPI previously? Oh, nice. Okay, so I think I have a lot of audience to convince today. All right, and I'm Damilola. I don't have a social media account, so bear with me. Okay. So the first thing is, let's get back to developer experience. So I think this is a nice segue into what Shedrack just did. And developer experience basically has to do with everybody has a product you've built. You're probably exposing APIs to everyone to make use of. And it takes a lot for developers to be able to say, oh, this is a new product, I want to try it out. We all know that we're all impatient. We just want to get to it as quickly as possible. So that's basically what developer experience is, like the journey from knowing about a product to integrating that product. So it involves the creation of tools and resources, basically to make your developer experience journey smooth. So generally, you provide resources and tools such as a documentation, an API reference, you provide tutorials, you provide postmark collection or something for people that want to test locally. You provide, you organize webinars, you have libraries that are built by communities or built by your company, and then you have plugins for people that are not really technical but want to just get along with your product as quickly as possible. So with all this, we started to do a form of audit on our developer experience to see how we can do even better. So some of the things we learned are, one, we're focused on text-based content, majorly because we have just our documentation and API reference. We have few tutorials, and this is something that you might also want to do in order to build and improve your developer experience. So the next one was the kind of content we wanted to create. It was we're kind of limited because the kind of ideas we have, the kind of things we wanted to execute, the available resources we had, the tools we had, were kind of too restraining for us. So next one was timely updates to contributors. And one of the things we've really benefited from the open source community are developers that built a lot of libraries and a lot of plugins for us, which we really appreciate. But there's no way for us to give them a timely update on when things change on our end, when our APIs, when we release probably new products, we make changes to our APIs. And lastly, we realized that tools and resources are inseparable. So you need tools to create good resources, and you also need resources, more or less like your content and things, to talk about the tools you have. So with this knowledge, we then decided that we had our calls, we had meetings, and how can we do better? How can we improve better on our developer experience and improve the developer journey? So that's when we, not like we discovered, but yeah, we found out that OpenAPI can help us with this. So what's OpenAPI? So OpenAPI is more or less like your blueprint of your product. So if you have any API, if you are an API-based company, it's more or less the tech spec, more or less, or look at this building. It's more or less like the blueprint that maybe an architect creates before they build this kind of building. So that's basically what API is, and it's language agnostic, and it's typically represented in either a JSON or YAML format. So with this knowledge, we're able to see that, OpenAPI specification allows us to document what we have on our API. So the next thing is, what does it look like? So OpenAPI basically has this tag, this is the YAML format, by the way. So it has the OpenAPI key to denote the version. There's a 2-point version, which is popularly called Swagger. So some people might have heard of Swagger. Then we also have the info, which is talking about the description of your API. We have the server, which is the publicly accessible endpoints. And tags are the collections of your API. The path are the endpoints themselves. Components are your schemas, your models, and things like that. Then security are the bearer of your username, password, OAuth, and things like that. So next thing is, what does a path structure look like? So if you see this, you can see that it's human readable, and it's kind of easy for anyone to understand. So you have the path, you have the parameters that this path can take. You have the tag, which shows order what category this is based on. The summary, we have the operation ID. Then we have the responses. And the responses, you can see that it has a ref on it, which is referencing a model, which is under the component. So the next thing is, what does a model look like? So a model is basically just contains the type and the parameters that can go for each endpoint. So having looked at this, one more thing is the editor. So if you see this kind of editor now, it's kind of easy for anyone, first of all, like the engineers internally, to know what's going on the APIs. So with our knowledge of this, we then decided that, oh, what else can we do? How can we make use of this specification, which is more or less like a blueprint? How can we go further with it? So then we realized that, oh, okay, this thing is actually showing like the inner workings of our API. Then it can be used to generate, it can be generated from an already existing code base. So you've built your API, you've built your servers and everything. You could literally like generate it. There are tools or libraries that you could use to generate your OpenAPI spec from your code base. Alternatively, it could also be used to scaffold a code base. So that was what that got our attention that, oh, if you could scaffold a code base, could we use this as a means to like address certain developer issues, developer experience issues we are having? So like this was what led us to discovering the OpenAPI generator. So the OpenAPI generator, it's a Java-based tool that allows us to generate clients, servers, documentation from an OpenAPI specification. So already we have our server. So we're not necessarily interested in what server does. Our APIs are already existing, but we're interested in clients and documentation. So one good thing is we already have our documentation up and running, but there are certain things where you need to update documentation. The product teams are probably shipping faster than the developer experience team can catch up with, or the engineers are probably like, oh, they've shipped the product, probably just went on and didn't probably make announcement to other teams. They didn't communicate to other teams that, oh, we've changed this thing. So with OpenAPI definition, with the OpenAPI spec, we have an OpenAPI generator. We realized that we could do certain things that allows us bridge the gap between different teams. So one of it is clients and generating clients, and the other one is generating documentation. So how do you use OpenAPI generator? One thing is you need your OpenAPI spec. So already, once you've generated your OpenAPI spec from your code base, or you can just write it out manually, you already have like the first step to working with OpenAPI generator. So the next thing is you need language-specific templates. So for the backend engineers here, you realize that most of the things you do on your API are more or less like repetitive. So if you're going to create like a post endpoint will have a request body, it will, which is like the models of what it's going to take in. It's going to have, what's it called, headers and things like that. For your get endpoint, typically it's just query parameters or nothing at all. So these things are like, they are more or less like, can be templated, more or less. So the last thing you need is an optional config for fine-tuning. So with this, we are able to discover that, okay, so we already have our OpenAPI spec already. So let's now talk about what templates look like. So the templates could be in two formats. You could use your mustache, or you could use handlebars. So what does template help you do? So you have post endpoints that are like, oh, I need to get certain parameters. I need to get certain, what's it called, models to work with this thing. For example, I want to create a customer. I need a customer first name. I need a customer last name. I think those are the parameters. But if I need to fetch a customer, it's different. I probably need just the customer ID or something. These things are like they're the same across board. So why do we have to go through that process where when creating our clients' libraries, we then start doing, oh, for each file, we create each file, we add each of these things. So that's where templates come into play. So with templates, with mustache templates, this is something like what it looks like. You can see that it has like a default JavaScript code, which is just like an export function. But those things in the curly braces are what makes templates even better. So those things in the curly braces are going to be used by the OpenAPI generator. Like they're going to be replaced by the OpenAPI generator, picking things from your OpenAPI spec and adding it to this to generate a full code. So basically what this means is that for all the responses you are going to have on your API, this is all you need. Just these three lines, just three functions, and it's going to add it across board for you. So with this, okay, the next thing is, what does config look like? So your config is more or less like, okay, how should I go about my generation? How should I go about how this thing should be? So the first thing is, you need your OpenAPI spec, of course, which is like the input spec. You need like a templates directory. So like your mustache file can be as complicated and can be as very simple because you have multiple things you want to focus on. You might want to generate tests automatically. You might want to generate various endpoints. Like there are different things. So you point to the directory where your template is. And the good thing about OpenAPI generator is it comes with default templates. So it's good for you to it's easy for you to just get started with it and you are able to start building client library. So next thing is what output directory do you want it to go and the generator name. In this case, this is TypeScript and we have various additional property for TypeScript specific, JavaScript specific application, which is the NPM name, the NPM version, and to make sure it makes use of NPM 3+. TypeScript 3+. So with this, when we've gotten our OpenAPI spec already in place, we have our templates in place. The last thing was we've created our config to suit our use case. We realized that we could use just one line of code to generate an entire Node.js client library. So what does this look like? With this line of code, we're able to generate a Node template, a Node library that has everything under it, which is like our APIs, our models, the runtime, and we could also scaffold it to like create the library which can be deployed to NPM. So with this knowledge, we realize that we can like shut down development time considerably, rather than creating like dedicating different resources to like, oh, this language Node, we need this developer to start building our Node client. We need this developer to build Python. We need this developer to build like Java or like object-oriented based. We realize that with this, we're able to move faster. So, and once we deployed the application, this is what like implementation and usage looks like. All we just have to do is import the library, add our secret key, and with like a few lines of code, we're able to already fetch our customer. So it's more or less like, what does this mean to you? So you're trying to build like you're trying to build client libraries for your developers. Like your developers, not everybody is like really tech savvy to like start building like there are different, especially in JavaScript, there are different libraries that can be used for HTTP requests. These things are repeated. Can you make things easier for you? So like one advantage of using the OpenAPI generator is it makes documentation for internal engineers. It provides documentation for internal engineers. So like engineers, one of the things engineers don't really like is documenting. So one thing that OpenAPI specification allows you to do, provides for you is documentation for internal engineers. So the next thing is faster development times for library and tools. So with the OpenAPI spec and the OpenAPI generator, you are able to like deploy different, you're able to like build different libraries like within split seconds for across all languages. So now your sales team come on board, they're like, oh, we need to build this library for certain merchants. Do you have to like dedicate like say 3 months or 2 months, or even say, let's say the developer is like really experienced, probably a month to build the client library? No, all you need to do is just have your OpenAPI spec in place, which is a one-off tax that once you've done it once, like you can always reuse it. The next thing is work on your templates, and with that, within a few seconds, it's just run a single line of code, and you're able to generate different client libraries across different languages, which improves development time. The next one is automation. So one thing we are currently exploring now is how, with our OpenAPI specification, we can, from development team, like once a product team is done implementing like new changes on the API, can we like work with our DevOps team to like, oh, this change has been made. Can we put it on a CI/CD pipeline such that it updates our OpenAPI spec? And the moment that is updated, it triggers like a workflow that generates all our libraries across board. So this means like immediately a change is made on your API, you can automatically update all your client libraries all at one go. So like this is what using this workflow can help you with. The next one is you have API developers. One thing with our developers are like they always want to like they don't have time to like write long lines of code and things like that. So like with updating all your client library at a go, having the latest features helps them, makes them happy, and like let them keep coming back to use your product. So what's next for us? The first thing is we're going to be open sourcing our OpenAPI spec. I think we did that some weeks back, and we'd like people to like look at it and see how they can also apply it to their companies. We have 2 formats for our OpenAPI spec. One is particularly for the SDK. So you can look at that to see how you can also generate SDKs for all your libraries. The other one is like a full-fledged specification for like internal teams. Everything has been open source on our open source GitHub repo. The next thing is we're looking to drive community collaboration by working with developers that have already built client libraries for us, such that we can they can update all the existing libraries. So everybody like with the new features we have on our APIs. And we need the help of the community to like work to like make this come to pass. Next thing is we're going to launch our Node and Python library in beta in the coming weeks, so you can see how this works. Like a lot of companies that make use of APIs will really benefit from this, and we'll be able to learn 1 or 2 things. Then we're going to generate libraries for our top languages, and finally we're going to explore more use cases for OpenAPI spec and generator. One thing we're thinking of doing is our documentation itself. We want to fully optimize like the process, and with this we are able to do that. So if you have more questions or you want to learn more about this, we're going to be writing like a blog post on it, and you can learn about it. Thank you very much.